Welcome to the Synergy Podcast, the space where we redefine how we move, heal, and experience our bodies. My name is Ariana Montanari, a yoga teacher, soap maker, and beekeeper, and really advocate for a pain-free life driven by pleasure. Here, we break free from the unspoken rules that tell us how we should look, how we should move and feel. And through intuitive movement, self-care, and deeper connection with nature, we explore what it truly means to live without tension, pain, or limitations. So whether you're a yogi, a seeker, or simply curious about stepping into a more liberated way of living, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Well, thank you, Simon, for being here on the Synergy Podcast. Today, a new episode with my teacher and founder of Yoga Synergy, Simon Borg-Olivier. I'm so honored to have you here. Oh.
It's such a pleasure to spend any time at all with you, Ariana. I've really enjoyed coming to visit you in Sweden and the connection we've had going back for almost a decade now. So it's really my honor to be here with you on this Synergy podcast. I'm very happy. Thank you.
Simon, would you like to quickly introduce yourself for those who do not know who you are?
Okay, well, Simon Borg-Olivier is my name. I have been working with trying to, if you like, hack my body to get the best response out of it for about 55 years. My father introduced me to breath control when I was very young. I was about 6, and he taught me how not to breathe, mainly for free diving, mainly to swim underwater. Not so long after this, I met a wonderful Rhodesian at the time man who taught me Indian yoga kriya, how to control my internal organs while not breathing. In my teens, I had a Tibetan Lama who taught me about tantric yoga and philosophy. And then after that, I spent quite a few years doing gymnastics training and weight training and circuit training, these sort of things. And as a result of a number of injuries I got through life challenges, such as breaking my neck in a fall and dislocating my knees, someone said to me that yoga might be a good thing to do. So I embarked upon a yoga training when I was in my early 20s, and that involved a lot of stretching and activating different parts of the body. But I had some really cool teachers, including one whose name is Professor Bim, who was an All India gold medalist in yoga, and he could do things like stop his heart rate. Incredible feats of strength, bend steel with his eyeball by bringing pressure to his eyeball. Amazing guy, and I still know him 40 years later. But along with his training, I got the impetus to go travel to India. And I've been to India like 28 times now. And I studied with who are considered some of the best modern yoga teachers, including Mr. B.K.S. Iyengar, the Sri K. Patabi Joyce, Mr. Desikachar, all of whom studied under Krishnamacharya, who in some people's view is the founder of modern yoga. And I learned with these people, taught for about 10 years in the 1980s to the early 1990s, and I'm still teaching today. But in the beginning of the 1990s, I recognized that something was not quite right. So I thought I needed more training. So I went back to university for my third university degree in biology, which was human biology in the form of physiotherapy. So in the 1990s, I became a registered physiotherapist, and I've been working ever since then. But one of the things that also impacted me significantly was training in the traditional systems of other cultures, such as Japan and China. And I had a couple of really significantly amazing Chinese teachers going back to Chinese medicine and acupuncture training, shiatsu and stuff like this from Japan, but also a couple of qigong and martial arts instructors. And what I've done in the last 20 years is tried to consolidate all the training from the West, from the different cultures of the East, bring it all together and find what is the common origin, the common themes, physically, physiologically, and mentally, that you can do with modalities such as posture, movement, breath control, mental control, to give you the best results for health, happiness, and longevity. Bearing in mind that we live in a very unnatural, modern world we call normal people living in a very unnatural world. What's the best things that normal people can do using posture, movement, breathing, mental control, lifestyle changes such as diet to get the best results for health, happiness, and longevity long term? So this is where I'm coming from, and I've been at it for 50 years or so.
Amazing, thank you. And you really give a perspective that is a work of a lifetime. It's not just a few years, it's 50 years and in the making, still going. So inspiring. And I remember how I have told you, wow, Simon, this feels so innovative. This is so new and so different. And you told me, no, but it's nothing new. You are just, I mean, you, in terms of you, Simon, you are connecting all the dots and weaving together different cultures that have this actually common root, a common origin, and maybe common principles. And it's a very beautiful way, the way you describe this. I want to take a moment to talk about something truly special and close to the heart. Mielestrega, my own line of natural handmade body products. And as you know, I am passionate about moving with ease and feeling good in our bodies, and that extends to what we put on our skin. Each batch of Mielestrega products is crafted with love, for real, by me, using ingredients from my very own beehives and my darling bees, combined with the pure botanicals. Whether it's a soothing, luxury whipped body butter, a nourishing lip balm, or a gentle soap, everything is designed to support your body's natural rhythm, just like the practices we explore here. If you're looking for skincare that's pure, it's intentional and deeply connected and aligned to nature, check it out at mielestrega.com. And because you're a listener, I've got a special gift for you. Use the code SYNERGY10, spelled with Y and Y, for 10% off your first order. Now, back to our conversation. There is maybe a little bit of mistrust, maybe lack of information about what yoga really is and what it does. Maybe a little bit of mistrust, a little bit being careful to teachers. Have you noticed something like this, and how would you address this?
Unfortunately, yoga in the modern world tends to get a bit of a bad reputation. And I think part of the reasons are that people perceive yoga to be a lot to do with stretching and sometimes to do with flexibility and relaxation and breathing. But actually, that gives a very poor definition. To me, yoga is about connection, establishing healthy connections inside yourself and connections in the world. And I say that because certainly if you do good yoga as a byproduct, you can get strong and flexible. But because yoga is trying to do many things at once, if someone uses other techniques which are not in a lot of yoga, then you can often get better, quicker results in flexibility than you would in a yoga class by doing something else. You can get quicker effects for strengthening by doing something else other than yoga. But what yoga gives you potentially is a balanced way of doing it. Because what I found is that many people work training-wise for short-term goals in strength and flexibility and fitness. But by doing it in this quick, short-term way, using the modalities often used in stretch classes and strengthening classes, you compromise other important aspects of your life. For example, the health of your nervous system, your immune system, your digestive system can often get compromised if you just make your aim stretching and getting more flexible. What I teach is methods of getting more flexible without needing to do strong stretching, to get stronger without feeling like you're tense, to improve blood flow and healthy circulation of energy and information through the body without needing to make your heart race. So what I'm saying is the perception of yoga is a little bit malaligned and a bit misunderstood because many people think yoga is about stretching and tensing muscles, but actually there's better ways of doing it that yoga offers. But these better ways of doing it, which often get incorporated into modern yoga as opposed to traditional yoga, they often cause stress to the body. And that stress is manifested by overstretching, overtensing, overbreathing, and making the blood flow through the heart racing. Because what we really want is not stretching, we want flexibility. What we really want is not tensing muscles, but we want to be strong while feeling relaxed. And what we really want most of the time is not to get our heart rate up, because often that's a manifestation of stress. We want to get better blood flow, better blood circulation, better energy flow in the body without needing to make the heart race. And these things sound like, how can you possibly do that?
Exactly.
But actually, healthy yoga is the possibility that you can use at least 11 other methods with physical posture, movement, breathing, and mental control to get your blood to circulate very effectively without needing to make your heart race. I can also show you very effective ways to improve the flexibility of your joints and muscles without needing to feel a single stretch, and to improve your strength without needing to feel tense. And so these are the secrets of yoga that are part of traditional yoga, but are not understood by modern yoga often, because modern yoga is often done in a shortcut way. You know, if someone is learning to become a physiotherapist or a doctor or a psychotherapist, you know, professions which obviously are very valid, but those professions take 3 to 5 or much more years just to get a basic qualification. And then you understand something about the body, the physiology, or the mind. But what modern yoga has become is something which supposedly people can learn in 1 month or 1 week or a weekend course. And you can't really learn anything in 1 week, 1 month, etc. You could learn something, but not enough to become with the level of understanding that's required to be someone who has the potency of a doctor or a physiotherapist or a psychologist. But yoga, when learned properly, could have the power of physiotherapy, medical science, and psychology if learnt properly and done for a long enough period. And that means you can't just learn yoga in a month. You have to study it for decades. And so I've been really lucky to have great masters as my teachers, and I've been at it for a long time. You know, I don't think that I'm as good as I could be for someone who's been at it for 50 years, but I've learned lots of tricks and lots of things that can really help you access your unconscious mind, to rewrite unwanted programs, to reset your nervous system so you can be energized but relaxed at the same time, and to get optimal health of your immune, digestive, and reproductive systems, basically your organs of longevity, to allow you to have a healthy, happy mind without needing too much on the outside. And yes, of course, I can show you how to get more flexible and more strong. And, you know, I can also show people how to help them relieve back pain, knee pain, hip pain, etc. But there's a lot more to yoga than most people think, because most people think it's just about stretching. What do they say mostly? I don't do yoga because I can't touch my toes. It's the least important thing, you know? So there's many things yoga could offer people don't realize, and there's many things that yoga could do, but most people doing and teaching yoga have very little idea of the potential of yoga because the training is just not long enough. That's a simple summary, perhaps.
That can be quite provoking for some. What do you mean? I don't have to stretch and I don't have to push hard and still get all the benefits. How do you perform then? How do you have a performing fit body anyway without having the heart racing and pumping? For me, that was also like at the beginning, I used to have a much stronger practice, going and really craving that feeling of the muscles burning and the super stretches. It was like, this is so nice. And nowadays the practice has shifted so much that I don't go anymore and look for those feelings. I rather keep it balanced so that I maybe feel a little bit sometimes, but not all the time. But it's like you say, it really took years, and it's still, of course, in the process. So there's always something new that you can capture from the movements, something new that you share that I'm like, oh, this is probably the millionth time that he says this, but this is the first time that I actually understand it, that I actually capture it. Like, oh, this now makes sense. So thank you for all your teaching.
You're sweet. That's very good. The idea that we have to suffer to get something is one of the paradigm shifts that we need to make, because you don't need to adhere to the paradigm of no pain, no gain, the paradigm of survival of the fittest. If you're good, you're going to go to heaven. If you're bad, you're going to go to hell. There's no free lunch. I believe it's actually really possible to actually work in a way where you don't suffer and you still get results. But many people don't think it's possible. So often they look for pain in the practice. They look for stiffness after the practice. They look for that sense of stretch or tension, which if you took stretch a little bit further, it would become pain. Took pain a little bit further, it becomes an injury. So by coming closer to stretch, you come one step closer to injury. Whereas really what we want is not the stretch, we want the flexibility. There are simple ways, accessing your nerve reflexes, for example, connecting with your gut brain as another example, to create flexibility without stretching. And again, we have to look at the paradigms, because a lot of the paradigms in the modern world of fitness, for example, it's really important to have a strong core. But that becomes an issue because there are many ways of tightening your core, but most of the ways people engage their core actually causes a dysfunction. And the dysfunction when people tighten their core mostly is that they lose connection with their gut brain, the enteric nervous system. They also lose the ability to mobilize their spine, which is very important. And they also lose the ability to breathe naturally, which is very important, which then causes inhibition of the organs of longevity. You don't access then the digestive, immune, reproductive systems as well. So a paradigm shift that could be made with the core is don't lock your core, as many people do, but rather move from your core. And even physiotherapy studies in Australia going back to 1989 suggested what all traditional cultures will say is that the movement and the breath of your body should always be initiated from the core of your body. And the core is simply this invisible tiny point between your navel and your pubic bone, between the top of your hips and your tailbone inside. And the core is a central invisible point where all movement should start from. But wrapped around this tiny invisible point is your organs of longevity. Immune system, digestive and reproductive systems have a lot of function around there. But interwoven between your intestines is this large network of nerves, which is technically called the enteric nervous system, but euphemistically is called the gut brain. And many people talk about we need to listen to our gut feelings more. And we go, the gut, does it have feelings? Well, actually, it does. It has a whole sensory system there, which is not just a couple of nerves. There's more nerve tissue in the enteric nervous system at your core than there is in your spinal cord, and more nerve tissue in this gut brain than is in a cat's brain. So cats are very smart. So I always say your core could be very smart. And for me, meditation in action, they often say to meditate, you have to make subject and object act as one. But in your own body, you get a really good meditative state akin to the flow state of the elite athlete, or the zone that the elite athlete often tries to get into, by creating a connection between the thinking brain in your head and your action brain or gut brain at your core. So then what I teach people is to move from their core, to breathe from their core, to do resistance activity from the core, and to feel more what their core is saying. And when you do this, you get better strength without tension, better flexibility without stretching, better blood flow without the heart racing. And so what we want is not to feel stretch or tension or heart racing, because they're signs of stress. The body interprets them as being something's wrong. So if you can move effortlessly without stretch or tension, your body naturally feels more relaxed. If blood is flowing easily, you have lots of energy. But as soon as your heart starts racing, your body thinks you're running away from a perceived enemy. So the paradigm shift is partly we shouldn't be looking for the signs of stress as meaning signs of progress. What you want is to be more like a fit person who runs fast, hardly breathes at all, hardly has their heart racing, and doesn't feel tension or stretch in their legs. But often what we're doing is looking for situations where we breathe more, heart races more, and stretch and tension is part of the practice. Shift the paradigm. Practice in a way where you're not feeling these things, but also practice in a way where strength, flexibility, and blood flow are being developed. Most people will go, that's impossible, but it's not. And I think you and I experience this all the time. And I really invite people to look into what we're doing, what you're doing beautifully where you live, and what I do when I travel, and what I look forward to doing when I see you soon, and when we practice together in Sweden in a couple of months' time. And then you can really feel that it's possible to get flexible without stretching, to get strong without being tense, to improve circulation and energy in your body without having to breathe more or get your heart racing or to feel this type of stress. And of course, it's okay to get your heart racing, to breathe more, to stretch and tense, but limit that to 1 to 10% of your conscious practice time. And then you're doing pretty much what they train Olympic athletes to do. And I think most people don't realize it, but when an Olympic athlete, say, who is a runner, is preparing to go to the next Olympics, they're not told, run hard for 100 minutes. They say, if you are running for 100 minutes, we want you to run for 90 minutes in a way where you can talk normally. You're not running at your maximum. Only for 10 minutes are these runners told to run hard. But this is not what the normal person does. Normal person does nothing most of the week, and 3 to 5 times a week, they go hard and exercise, get their heart rate up. This does not give good long-term results. Better long-term results come if in most of your practice time, you're doing stuff that feels easy. And only for 1 to 10% of the time, you work so hard that it feels a little bit like a strain. But the more strain, the longer you do it for, the more likely you are to get injury physically or turn off your immune system and cause physiological disturbances that we could call stress, which also then goes into your mind. Now, the funny thing is, many people are looking for this stress. And why? Well, partly it's because when you make your body stressed by overtensing, overstretching, overbreathing, making your heart race, the body starts to secrete hormones, neurotransmitters, which people sometimes like. Like, for example, in a stressful state, you secrete adrenaline and cortisol and endorphins, which are a little bit like the common misused drugs like coffee, cocaine, and heroin. So if you take coffee, cocaine, and heroin at the same time, you go, "Oh, I feel amazing. I've got no pain." But you're on painkillers while doing potentially dangerous things. And when you exercise and induce that state in your body, it doesn't hurt until the next day when your painkillers wear off. So when we practice the way you and I practice, the way the system that we're teaching encourages, you get stronger and more flexible. It's not quite the instant result you get in 2 weeks, but it happens very quickly still. And you do see results straight away, maybe not with bigger muscles, but with easier ways of doing things. But you very rarely get sore the next day. And this is a surprise. Some people look for the pain the next day to think they're progressing, but you don't need to. That's a paradigm shift. And one of the other things that I think is important to acknowledge is that many people in modern yoga, especially, and in the world of modern festivals and things like this, is they teach breathe more, breathe more. But actually, healthy people breathe less. When you're sleeping and regenerating, you hardly breathe at all. But what happens when you breathe more is people don't realize that you're reducing blood flow to the brain. You're also hypersensitizing the nervous system. You're also reducing the entry of oxygen into your cells. So breathing more than normal, which many people teach as something you should be doing, is actually causing dysfunction. And by learning to do more things while breathing less, that's an expression of health and fitness. But if you breathe more, you get the effects which almost are like marijuana. Reduced blood flow to the brain, you don't think as well, and a hypersensitization of the nervous system, which makes your body feel more, but it doesn't actually mean that you're healthier. You're just more sensitive and don't think as well. So when a person does a class like some modern yoga classes where you're told to stretch and tense and breathe more and get your heart racing, you will secrete the chemicals in the body, neurotransmitters and hormones, which give you the effect of feeling good. You think, you crave it. People get addicted to it. I'm on a yoga high. I'm on a prana high. I'm on a runner's high. Maybe not. Maybe you're just stoned on the body's own marijuana, cocaine, caffeine, heroin at the same time. And I'm not saying these drugs are bad drugs. They can be useful. But you don't want to drive a car on these drugs. You don't want to do a brain operation. What you want to do, the things we need to do in everyday life, like be functional, is you want to have a clear, focused mind, a calm nervous system, and lots of energy. But the way most people are doing it in the world today of yoga, modern fitness, is they're doing too much workout. And a workout, the way I see it, is something that at the end of the workout, which is often a bit painful, a bit stressful, at the end of a workout, you have less energy, more need for food, more need for sleep, and often more pain the next day. I think for longevity, for health, and what we're trying to do is give more like what we could call a work in, where at the end of the practice, you have less need for sleep, less need for food, more energy, and a sense that you don't need to sleep so much, and a sense that next day you're not in pain, but actually while you were doing it, it wasn't painful either. So it's actually nice. And one of the things that you and I have often talked about is the idea that the practices that we're doing don't feel like exercise. They give you the benefits of exercise, but the benefits of exercise and sleep at the same time. And it almost feels like you're in a warm bath because the blood circulates so easily. But it's like you're being massaged in a warm bath, massaged by someone who loves you. And so this is a nice feeling. It doesn't make you feel that you're suffering in any way, but somehow it's almost like you're tapping into a free energy that the universe is said to have. And this is something which in the beginning people don't actually think is possible, but it is possible. And the best way of finding out is to come in and try some of the things that you and I teach and practice.
The thing that you say about imagining that you're in a warm bath and somebody you love gives you a massage is something that I usually tell at the end of the class when people say, "Oh my God, this feels so good," and then I quote you, and they can really relate to this a moment of exercise where you actually fill your cup and you don't deplete your energy levels. You feel more energized and less hungry, like you say. And so you have kind of touched through what I was thinking of asking you after, the power of yoga, what it actually can do on our bodies, on our mind, on the way we think, on the way we act. Because by practicing yoga, and especially what you're creating, you really work on the body awareness. So you become a master of yourself. We're kind of used to let others be the specialists on our bodies. And we don't go through the process of actually going and be curious in our body. Oh, this feels uncomfortable. This movement. Oh, today I feel stiff in the body. What's happening? And this practice really helps with that. So can you expand a little bit more on how being more aware of our thoughts, and I don't say like controlling them, but just like be aware on our thoughts, on our breath, on our movements, on our actions, and what that can create in our lives?
Well, it's important to acknowledge that most people think that their thoughts, their feelings are coming as a result of what's going on in their life and their environment. But the field of epigenetics, my first career before I became a physiotherapist decades ago, I was a molecular biologist, a genetic engineer. I spent a lot of time with the world of genetics, and the up and coming field of epigenetics suggests that the genetics of your body, which turn on the production of hormones and neurotransmitters and different, chemicals in the body, often peptides and molecules, which are produced as a result, not of your environment, but they're produced as a result in your body of what you think the environment is. So our feeling and our judgment of the environment often is skewed by what our body is feeling. So, for example, you will feel that the environment is a little bit less uncomfortable if your pelvic floor is tight, if your abdomen is tight, if your jaw is clenched. So your body, the way it holds posture, will send chemicals into your blood system, which will make you feel a certain way. So if you acknowledge this, you can also hack the way you feel just by releasing certain tensions inside the body. So a tense person will have a tense jaw, tense lips, and their eyes are wide open. So by simply relaxing your jaw, moving your lips, opening and closing the eyes a few times, this can help release the tension, which is tending to put you more into a flight or fight response, a stress response. If you relax your jaw, make saliva, move your lips and eyes, this can make your body start to release chemicals and synthesize the production of molecules inside your body that tell you more to be relaxed, to tell you more to feel at peace with your environment. And so one of the tools that we use in the system that we're teaching is to access what we call the bridges between your conscious and your unconscious. So then if your unconscious nervous system is feeling stress, and that's manifesting in your physical body, in how your energy levels are, in what's happening in your digestive and immune reproductive systems. Often your mind will feel a little bit stressed as well. So you can hack this, you can change this by changing the way you're holding your body, by accessing places in the body which are not controlled by your conscious mind, not just controlled by your unconscious mind, but they could potentially be controlled by both. The one that's the most common is breathing. Many people think that breathing is like a link between body and mind, or a link between conscious and unconscious. In fact, it's not your breath, it's your diaphragm. So many people will inhibit their diaphragm by holding their core too tight or tightening their pelvic floor too much. Many people will have their eyes wide open, but if you just control your eyes and take a few blinks, it makes a big difference. You see, blinking is one of those things that you can do consciously, or if someone slaps a hand in front of your face, it happens by itself. So there are about 12 individual places in the body, one of which is the eye blinking. Another one is the diaphragm, which when you control your diaphragm, you're taking control of a muscle consciously, which also works by itself unconsciously when you're asleep, for example. And so we, in the system that we're teaching and practice, we access places in the body which have dual control, conscious and unconscious. And just by tweaking them, you can actually take control of your nervous system. And whereas you might feel stressed and you think it's your environment, it's the way you're holding your body. And by releasing these points in your body, you instantly feel relaxed. And when you feel relaxed, your mind will start to feel more relaxed. And instead of feeling apprehension, anger, a sense of lack of trust, suddenly you feel like you trust yourself, you trust your environment. And when you feel trust and love inside yourself, your nervous system switches to a mode where we could call parasympathetic dominance, where your immune system works better, your digestive system works better, the organs of longevity tend to switch on, you will heal better, your cells will reproduce better. And so this is a more optimum state. So what we're doing then is making slight tweaks in specific places in the body, which we call bridges between conscious and unconscious. And this instantly starts to make blood flow easier, makes your nervous system function better. A simple way of doing it we can do right now. For anyone watching, simply take your fingers, lengthen them and move them. Keep doing that if comfortable, but now focus on your shoulders, relax them and gently roll the shoulders. Keep doing that if you wish, or just focus on one thing at once. Lengthen your neck, and instead of holding the neck tight, gently move it without stretching, just free it up. Then focus on your pelvic floor and just ask, is your pelvic floor tighter than it needs to be? If you can release it without feeling like you have to go to the toilet, let it go. Most people find they can relax it more than it's generally held. Relax your buttocks, relax your hips, and maybe if you're standing or sitting, move your hips a little bit. Then, is your back too tight? So if you are standing, you can bend the knees slightly and just drop your hips and relax your abdomen. Often the abdomen is held tighter than it needs to be. So take a gentle breath into your abdomen, round out your lower back where you could also breathe. Now relax your face, make kissing, smiling, half open and close the eyes. And if you do all these 6 things at once, fingers can move, shoulders can roll, make your neck free, relax your pelvic floor and just open the pelvic floor, move your hips a bit, lengthen your lower back and breathe into the abdomen or roll the abdomen softly, and then move your face. Kiss, smile, make saliva, half open, half close the eyes. Almost instantly your body feels warmer and more relaxed. Almost everyone can do this instantly. You know, I did this recently with a friend of mine, a dear friend, who'd recently suffered a stroke. And after the stroke, which happened to her right after she got vaccinated, sadly, because sometimes strokes come as a result of vaccinations. She had this happen. The doctor told her that the reason she had a stroke was because she was having too high blood pressure. And she pointed out, she's a vet, she's very smart. She said she didn't have high blood pressure until she got injected with something and it caused her to have a stroke. And she asked me, do I know anything that can release her blood pressure? First, she asked me, can I help relieve the stroke symptoms? And so I'm using the system that you and I teach to help with her stroke problems. And she got to the stage of being able to walk a little bit at least, even though still mostly paralyzed one side. But then a year or so later, a few months ago, she asked me, could I help her with her blood pressure problems? Because she was going to be put on medication. And for those who don't know about blood pressure, typical blood pressure numbers are maybe normal is 120 to 130, maybe over maybe 70 or 80. Her blood pressure was 240 over 160. That's dangerously high. And she was being told if you don't go on blood pressure lowering medication, you risk having another stroke or a heart attack and dying. But she was reluctant because she tried these blood pressure medications and she said it had too many side effects, like depression, like anxiety, and all sorts of. So she said, I don't want blood pressure medication. So I came to visit her and I gave her a 4-minute exercise. Actually, it was just what we did. Move your fingers, roll your shoulders, move your neck, relax your pelvic floor, relax your abdomen, drop your hips, kiss, smile. We did this, Ariana, for 4 minutes. And I tested her blood pressure before, and it was 240 over 160. I tested her blood pressure after, and it was 160 over 100. That type of drop in blood pressure in the space of 4 minutes, you don't even get with drugs. And this was an amazing thing. And she said instantly she felt much better as well. Because if there's stress in your body, it blocks energy and makes you feel uncomfortable. If you release that tension, then blood automatically starts to flow. So, one of the tenets of the practice that we're trying to do, and actually the tenet that was originally the purpose of yoga, yoga means connection. So, I believe it's important that we don't just think we're here to stretch or tense muscles. The purpose of our practice is to connect. And the best way to connect with anyone is by what I say, sharing your good energy and your love and care to a person you want to connect with. But before you can even do that with someone else, you do it inside yourself. So, in our own bodies, I believe it's good to share what I call good energy and loving information. And that is an enhanced circulatory ability, so blood flows easily, your good energy. And the loving information is that dominance of your parasympathetic nervous system, the place where we're relaxed and you get optimum rest, relaxation, regeneration, rejuvenation. They sometimes call it the rest and digest nervous system. And so to do this, have it as your aim. Make your practice primarily to connect by sharing good energy and loving information inside your body. Second step is stop blocking it. What blocks this is too much tension, often too much stretching or postures where you're overstretched on one side, the worst of which is sitting on chairs for 5 to 15 hours a day. Get off your chair. And then often it's too much tensing, too much stretching or inappropriate posture, too much breathing. Stop breathing more. Breathe naturally. And too much thinking. That's often a big sign of stress, and too much eating. So the motto that we talk often is tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less, but do more things in a relaxed way. And especially when you're doing things, if you do them the right way, energy builds. So I say 3 steps. One is make the aim of your practice to move good energy and loving information through your pain-free, functional body. Second thing is stop blocking that aim. Tense less, stretch less, breathe less, think less. Third thing is encourage the movement of healthy blood flow and a calm nervous system, good energy and loving information. And to do that, move actively into positions. Don't just collapse into a posture by dropping with gravity or one limb pulling another or momentum. Move actively, use your muscles. As a physiotherapist, they often say this axiom, which I love. Exercise is optional, but movement is essential. Just moving your fingers and shoulders already gives you so much. So move actively. Then second thing is move from your core. Don't lock your core. Third thing is breathe naturally. Breathe from your core. And when you really learn what natural breathing is, eventually, with a bit of time and practice, you can do what we could call supernatural breathing, which in yoga is called pranayama, where you learn to actually breathe less, not more, but do more with that breath. And the fourth thing is to move fluidly, gracefully. And when you do this, energy builds, not drops. It's a very simple set of concepts, but it goes against the paradigm of no pain, no gain, survival of the fittest. So in the beginning, the hardest thing I think that we face teaching people is not to get them to learn something new, but to stop doing the things that are actually causing problems. Over-tensing, overstretching, over-breathing, thinking that it's good to get your heart rate up, thinking that it's good to suffer. This we need to get out, I think.
Simon, thank you. This is such a precious knowledge. It really was touching my heart. I had goosebumps what you were saying, talking about the epigenetics and all of that thing. It's a very powerful message that you're sharing, and this is why I'm so happy that you decided to guest here and share what you have to say. Could you please tell us how we can connect with you for those interested in your work, and then talk a little bit about your upcoming workshops, both in the world and in Sweden in June?
Okay. Well, you can connect with me. Anyone listening to this can connect with me online by looking up my name, Simon Borg-Olivier, and it's one word, simonborgolivier.com. But you could probably even misspell it and find me on the internet. It's easy to find me. And then go to my website. And then just there's a form where you can ask questions, and I'll write to you. So sometimes it takes me a bit longer, but at least I could send you a little package of information, a set of simple practices you might do, like the ones we're suggesting. I can do that for free. But if you're interested, We also have lots of online courses, lots of practices for beginners, for experienced people, courses on therapy, courses on yoga, courses which are for anyone, more technical courses, more beginner courses. And that's online. I even have teacher training online as well, which is a really fun thing that we connect with every couple of weeks with Zoom and lots of pre-recorded material. But I'm also there on Instagram. Simon Borg-Olivier is my handle. And on Facebook, you can find me there as well. But in person, I love teaching. And, on
Just
my yeah, it's the best, like so on my website you'll see where I'm traveling all over the world this year, but I'm particularly looking forward to coming to spend time with you in Sweden in the middle of June. The dates, remind me the dates again.
14th of June.
Fantastic. It's exactly a month away. Today's the 14th of May. And so
Wow.
1 month away,
Yes.
and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. So we'll have a lovely time. And, often what we're doing is we're having 2 sessions in the day, 3 hours morning, 3 hours afternoon. But don't be scared of thinking, I can't do 6 hours a day. A
Exactly.
lot of it's just talking like this, and then maybe trying something simple. And then usually we make the practices so the first half is more learning and the second half more doing in a gentle way. Your personal inner dance, your inner movements that can feel really therapeutic. And if you want, we can make it full on. I can teach you things which you might think are important, like learning how to lift up to a handstand or finding better ways of doing the splits. But for more than most of the time, it's about learning to help you find ways of feeling better, healing from past problems, working towards living a longer, healthier, happier life, and with simple practices. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you again this year. It's been so nice talking to you today. And thank you for taking the time and for
Thank you,
sharing
Simon.
things that we've been doing. Bless you.
Of course, of course. As soon as I met you online years ago, I was like, wow, here there is something. And that was just because it was different. You said things that nobody else said, but it made so much sense. And although the mind was like skeptical, the body said, yes, of course, of course. I am like a living experiment, like, yes, of course. So you can be stronger, you can be more flexible and pain-free while pushing less or stretching less and training less hard. You can just actually have fun and enjoy. And that really unlocks so much love for yourself that before was, right? You were in another paradigm, like you said. So, Simon, you have changed my life. It sounds very cheesy, but this is what it is. And I am really, really grateful for your time today and for the upcoming workshops here in Sweden.
Thank you very much, dear Ariana. Thank you to everyone who's listening to this. It's a pleasure to spend time with you. I'm really looking forward to see you next week online for our teacher training online
Yes.
course, if you get a chance. But in a
Yep.
few weeks' time in Sweden, and we'll have a fantastic time once again, like we did last year. Thank you very much to you and to everyone listening.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Synergy Podcast. I hope this conversation sparked something within you, a new way of thinking, feeling, or moving. If you love this episode, let me know. Share it, leave a review, or connect with me on Instagram @mielestrega. And if you're ready to go deeper, check out my yoga offerings, come to a yoga class at the studio, and check out my handmade natural body products at mielestrega.com. Remember, your body is yours, your pleasure is yours, and living pain-free is possible. Until next time, move with ease and live with joy.